welcome back to the Museum and Library of David Frith for this next edition of Andy Collier-talks Cricket Memorabilia. Hopefully we're going to see some more gems today. Sorry about that, couldn't help it. Right, okay, start again. Hello, welcome to the next edition of Andy Collier-talks Cricket Memorabilia. We're back at the Museum Library of David Frith and we're going to go through some more gems in his collection, and we should have a good afternoon.
Yeah, this is a bat signed by the 1938 Australians. Don Bradman as captain, and they're famous for having conceded 903 runs against England at the Oval. Another bat here is signed by my 19th century hero, A.E. Stoddart, Drew E. Stoddart, the great captain of England in the 90s. He signed it at Hampstead, which was his home ground, where he once scored 485. And I don't know the significance of the bat. Maybe he used it, more likely someone else just got him to sign it. This is a very special bat. It's used by Archie Jackson. Archie Jackson died at 23, where he looked to be at least as good a batsman as Don Bradman back in the late 20s. Toured England 1930, made 73 at the Oval in a famous partnership with this bat, and he signed it and sent it to a friend. He's also got the rest of the Australian side signing the back of that bat. That really is something. But I suppose this is the king of all these bats here, and it's inscribed by J.T. Brown, Jack Brown, the Yorkshireman, who went in and smashed 100 in Melbourne to win the Ashes back in 1895. He's inscribed it there, 140 he made, reaching his 50 in under half an hour. There's a bit of dispute as to whether it was 28 minutes, 27 minutes. He reckoned that they signalled too long a period. He got there in 25 or something, but anyway, it got 140 runs. It's the most historic bat I know of. And this one here is the great 1948 Australian team, led by Don Bradman on his last tour of England. It's also signed by the Surrey team at the bottom. This one here, had it a long time, forgotten who presented it, but it's got Percy Chapman, the 1928-29 Ashes series. Probably a player used that and then got both teams to sign it. There's some great names on there, including D.G. Bradman. He used to sign D.G. to start with, and then he settled down to Don. A signature that he must have signed a million times if he signed once. This old one, R.E. Foster. It's signed by the Australian team of the late 1920s and a lot of distinguished Englishmen, including Tennyson and C.B. Fry. I bought this at a London auction house a long time ago, and it was billed as the bat with which Foster scored 287 on his Test debut in Sydney in 1903-04. I know of two other bats that purport to be Foster's 287 bat, but until someone can prove otherwise, this for me is the 287 bat. And the last one we'll have a look at is the most famous performance ever by a number 11 batsman, dear old Bill Johnston, the Australian fast bowler, Jolly Bill Johnston. He toured England 1953 and he averaged 102. He made 102 runs. He was only out once. They managed to have him not out about 16 times out of his 17 knocks. And this is the bat. I bought it off dear old Bill a long time ago. He told me about this. He showed it to Don Bradman once, and Don said, it's cracked. Bill being a left-hander, that was the inside edge. And Don said to Bill, That's the inside edge, Bill. That's class. This is a diary kept during the Second World War by a young Victorian called Ross Gregory, who played in the 36-37 Ashes series and helped to win them for Australia. He had a big partnership with Don Bradman in the deciding test at Melbourne. He went to war at the age of about 23 in the RAAF, came over to Britain, and eventually was shot down somewhere over what is now Bangladesh. And he was much mourned because he was a very, very popular young man, lovely chap. And this is the Wartime diary, which is full of stories of what they got up to after hours when they were posted to Britain, up in Scotland, down in London, and eventually he was transferred to India and never came back. I wrote a book based on that diary, and it was a revelation that someone could have had such a wonderful, promising life and then to have been cut down. Australia's only war casualty among its Test cricket ranks. There's a scoreline in that 36-7 Melbourne test, the deciding test. R.G. Gregory, Court Verity, Old Farms. The two Englishmen were also killed in the Second World War. It's a unique line in Test history. The three of them were all World War II fatalities. Now, this passport was once Neville Cardus's passport to Sydney and wherever else he went. And it reveals that he was born in 1889. In fact, that's what he's declared. But he took a year off his age. He was actually born in 1888. There's a picture of the old chap who is regarded as cricket writing's patron saint, I suppose. I knew him quite well. He was a lovely fellow, very interesting to talk to, and still held up as the greatest writer of them all. He told a few fibs, but he wrote beautifully. And this is a fob watch, a pocket watch, presented around the turn of the 20th century, late 1900s, to Victor Trumper by his teammates at Paddington Cricket Club in Sydney. He averaged 200 this particular summer, so they wanted to give him something to remember it by. And to touch it is to experience a very strange feeling. I showed it to Justin Langer once and I thought he was going to collapse. He held it and he just said, "Gee, Victor Trumper, wow." Steady on. It's just a fob watch, but rather special. This is volume 1 of Scores and Biographies, that classic series of old scores that all cricket students must have. There's a faded photograph of the compiler, Arthur Haygarth, and his signature above it. But even more historically fascinating is this inscription by Fred Lillywhite, who was a businessman really. And Arthur Haygarth reckoned that Lillywhite had taken advantage of him. Lillywhite's claiming all the credit for this series of scores, but I mean, they're vital to cricket history. And Arthur's scribbled at the bottom there that he did all the work, and I think he had to wait for his money too, and may not ever have been paid up in full. And there's Fred Lillywhite's inscription here, claiming most of the credit for this publication. I suppose neither could have done it without the other.